Okay, perfect. Okay.
Hello again.
Hello again.
Lovely to see you.
Lovely to
Be
see you
friends.
again. Thank
Be
you.
with these. So welcome. First things first.
Sure.
How did it go last night? How did it feel for you?
It felt incredible. It felt incredible just to have a whole theater full of people who seeing the show like that collectively. Now you watch television shows at home, so you don't normally get to have that shared experience anymore. So it was incredible.
Did you stay and watch when the people were watching, or did you go?
A little bit, not much, a little bit. Yeah.
Was there a moment when you felt the audience was kind of getting it? They were getting into it.
I didn't stay that long to feel it that way because it's hard for me to watch myself.
Yeah.
It's great.
Why?
As an actor, for me, I can say is I see there are moments where I wish I would have done things differently, made different choices, or I felt that I could have done better. You know, I always feel that I can always do better, and it's really hard when I see something. It's like I get mad at myself. Oh, I should have done this. I should have done that.
Even after all this time?
Even after all this time, because it's the creative process, particularly for actors, is we make choices about certain situations, and there'll be choices that I say. And here's the thing: if I did an episode, and out of 11 choices, I made 10 right choices, I'm always going to focus on that one choice that I wish I could have done differently. So that's why it's hard, because it's really hard to get a perfect performance. It's just really challenging.
Well, it's encouraging to know even you have your moments of doubt.
Oh, most definitely.
So let's talk a bit more about Watson. Why
Sure.
did you want, because you're also an executive producer.
Yes.
What was the thinking behind reimagining Watson?
That actually came from our showrunner, Craig Sweeney. Craig Sweeney is a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. He was one of the writers on the show called Elementary. And so it was just one of his ideas one day. He said he was driving his car and he was thinking, because he just loves the universe so much, and he came up with the concept. So that's all him. Unfortunately, I can't take credit for that.
And last night you were saying on stage what you like about it and what you think is unique is how there's a very specific medical case in each episode.
In each episode, yes.
Tell me about the process of understanding those cases as an actor, making it come across as something you truly understand, because it's complicated.
It's very complicated. So my character is really based on a real life internist. His name is Dr. Moalim. And so understanding each medical case is extremely challenging, because we shoot one episode every 8 days, and it's just understanding the jargon and rehearsing, coming up with all the scenes is challenging. So understanding the medical aspect, that's one of the first things that I try to approach, but it's really hard because, I mean, if I understood everything I said, I could be a doctor, but that's very challenging. But the interesting thing about Dr. Moalim is he is, every time we in preparation, he's also a producer on the show, and he's a consultant. And every time we speak to him, he is a world-renowned doctor. He's in a remote place around the world. But what's interesting, and you'll see more of it this year, and you saw it a lot last year, is he is the type of doctor to where he can just look at you and determine if you have some type of ailment, your medical condition, where you're from. So his mind never rests. He can't go to the beach and just relax, because he can always see some type of medical ailment on someone. And he literally did that to our showrunner, Craig Sweeney. We were on our first Zoom, and he looked at Craig and he says, "Okay, Craig said, well, do me." And he said, okay, he looked at Craig and he says, "You're this, you're that, and you're from here." And he was dead on. Wow. And so when he came to set, everyone was rushing up to him, "Do me, do me, do me."
Did you do it?
I didn't. Oh, no. I didn't want any bad news.
We have some questions here in the house.
Sure.
Can you all please use the mics just because we're recording? Just pass it amongst yourselves. Thank you.
Good morning, Morris.
Good morning.
So you didn't stay last night. So you didn't stay for the moment you took your top off. I
did not stay from that moment.
But this part is a big leading role. Do you think
Yes.
this will be? It's a big deal for you, isn't it, in fact, in terms of being a leading man in this production?
Most definitely. First of all, it's very very exciting. It's an honor. But to be the lead or the titular character of a 1 hour network show is extremely challenging because of the schedule. You're in practically almost every scene, and it's it's a machine. When the streaming shows, they can take 10 days. There's no timeline that they have to meet to when they finish an episode. So they can do an episode, they can take 10 days for an episode, 15 days for an episode, and then, you know, they normally shoot everything at once, and then they'll just, you know, stack it on their platform. Here, we have to meet a production schedule. So that's the most challenging thing about it. There's so much dialogue, and it's so intense. It just goes and goes and goes. You literally don't have that much time at all.
Can you talk us just? Oh, sorry.
I was going to follow up. Sorry, in
Sure.
terms of the leading man, have you got much feedback since it premiered in terms of this leading man thing?
Yes.
What sort of feedback have you got since then? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, people really enjoy the show. People enjoy the show. They enjoy the medical aspect of it. Some people enjoy the Sherlock aspect of it. You know, there's a strong Sherlock Holmes contingent out there, and there's a strong contingent that just loves the medical. And then you have some people that say, well, I want to really just focus on the medical. So, you know, you have that type of thing, but people are enjoying it.
You were talking about, just to jump in, you were talking about the intensity of the schedule. Just
Yes.
talk us through a typical day, a shoot day.
Oh
no.
No. So here's how it goes. So a typical shoot day for me, you know, I'll get to set at 7 in the morning. You know, we rehearse the first scene, and then we'll block it out. And then we'll do that. And so I'm typically in every scene throughout the day. So once we do that scene, we'll do probably 4 or 5 scenes a day. And then it's the same thing. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And the schedule will go, so I'll start, it starts at 7. And so I'll probably go till 7 or 8 that night. And then we don't start till 8 the next morning. Then we'll go later on. So that's why sometimes on Fridays, they call it Fraturdays. Yeah, they call it Fraturdays because you go Friday into Saturday. Because you work so much, but it's something that I love, and it's a privilege to have that. And when you're, you know, the challenge also, talk about the intensity of it. On the weekends is when I try to have to get the dialogue in my head, at least understand what's happening and have some of the dialogue, because you can't memorize it during the week because you're working during the week. So it's like you work during the week, and then on the weekend you're working because you're studying the dialogue. So it really never stops, and it comes by really fast.
Hi Maurice,
Hello.
mine is a curiosity. When you were a child, did you develop any of these skills of Watson? I mean, for instance, were you a curious kind of child with clues or with puzzles? You mean you had in some way a connection?
That's a great question. As a child, I was very inquisitive, and it's come to it. I've always been, even as a child, the one that goes into a room, and if there's a lot of people, I'm watching more than I'm talking. You know, I'm listening, I'm watching, and I try to understand. Even more so to this day, it's even gotten worse for me, because, you know, I'll go into a room and I'll just listen to people and watch people and understand why people do certain things. It's one of the reasons also I'll watch courtroom dramas sometimes, because reality, the docudramas, not the fictionalized or scripted, because I'm just curious about how people think and why they do and say the things that they do. So I've just been inquisitive by nature my whole life.
Thank you.
A question there, and then.
Sure.
Hello, hi, congratulations Maurice on
Thank you.
the success of the show, and
Thank you.
That success means there's going to be a season 2.
Yes, there is going to
So,
be.
so tell us how you
Thank
build from 1 to 2, just tell us what fans can expect, but also, so that's one, if I can squeeze in another question.
Sure.
There's also, it's going to be mid-season as well, so
Yes.
you're going to have to wait a while, right?
Yes.
So tell us about kind of just keeping fans waiting and what to expect from season 2.
Sure. So season two, we're going to focus more on the medical cases. There's going to be some love triangles. There's going to be more humor and wit throughout the show. Season 1 was a very challenging season, primarily because it was dealing with the effects of James Moriarty, who's the villain in the show. And he had, Watson was on drugs and messing with his prescriptions and medications. So now that that's behind him, he's going to have a little bit more fun and be a little bit more loose. But overall, in terms of the show, we're going to focus really on the very unique medical cases.
And there's a bit of a wait until season 2 because it's mid-season.
It's mid-season, yeah, but we're starting.
It's mid-season 2 because it's mid-season.
It's mid-season, yeah, but we're starting. When I go back, I'll get back this week. We'll have a little bit of rehearsals and then we'll start filming.
Just a quick word on Randall Park.
Oh, yes,
James Moriarty, we see him
yes.
very briefly at the end of the first episode.
Yes.
Some people might say interesting choice. I mean, known as a comedian.
Yes, and I love the choice because actors love it, and I actually love it as an audience member. I love seeing people play against type. I love seeing them play characters that people don't typically see them in. And with Randall, I love the choice with Randall because later on in the season, he and I have some scenes, and the things that he does. There were scenes that he and I would do too. So as we rehearse the scene until we're waiting for them to set up the lighting and everything. And I would talk to Randall. He's such a nice guy. And he's a funny guy, very humorous guy, very witty guy. And then he gets into this character, and you see this switch, and it happens later in the season. He does it on screen. I think he has a brilliant performance, and I love seeing people play against type. I think it's interesting to watch. I think he's great at what he does. I love seeing what he does normally as well, but it's great seeing him play against type.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Were you a fan of the shows ER or Doctor House? And do you understand why people would compare more your show to Doctor House than Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law?
Yes, most definitely. So I can definitely understand the comparisons to House because he's a titular character on a medical show, and that's the thing with the movies, this is a different iteration because, first of all, our show is present day, and then it's also told from the perspective of Watson and not Holmes. All of the other iterations, it's really told from Holmes' perspective, really following Sherlock Holmes. But this particular one, it's a modern day retelling of Watson. So it's a completely different animal, but I can definitely understand the comparison.
And were you a fan of the medical shows like ER? No, all the, if you see in history, all the medical shows like ER, Dr. Eclipse or growing up, they were all big shows.
Yes.
Yeah? Big stars.
Yes.
George Clooney came out.
Yeah, George Clooney. Yeah, for sure.
So were you a fan of those shows?
Yes. So I loved ER. I didn't watch House as much, but I was even on a show called The Resident, which is another medical show. I loved first when you talk about stars coming out of medical shows. Denzel Washington's first show was St. Elsewhere, which was also a medical show. So yeah, I've been a fan of shows for years.
Just here, please.
Hi, hello Maurice. My name is Romain. I'm working for Telestar, which is a kind of French TV guide, basically. You just talked about Sherlock Holmes. Your showrunner worked on Elementary. There's a lot of new TV series, including another one this year at the festival, which is called Sherlock and Daughter.
Oh, yes.
Why do you think these characters of Sherlock and Watson are so iconic and everybody wants to do their own versions?
I think that the iconic mythology of Sherlock Holmes has been so rich with story and so rich with characters, and there's so much to draw on. And it's just an intriguing, engaging mythology that can be spun in many different ways, many different directions. And so I think that's what makes it so iconic is that you can look at every iteration. You can watch Robert Downey Jr. You can watch Benedict Cumberbatch. You can watch all of them and see something different and interesting. And so I think that's why.
Just a quick follow-up about Sherlock. We know that in the books, after the fall of Racconta, he came back. We are hearing his voice in episode 7 from Matthew Berry. So does it mean that one day we will see him on screen?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Let me see how I'm gonna answer it. I will say so. Yes, I will say he in the mythology he does come back, and we are part of the mythology. I'll say it like that.
Thank you.
Over here. Here and then you.
Hello.
Hello.
We just saw each other
yes.
not long ago. I'm Andrea Garcia from Broadcaster Magazine from Uruguay. I wanted to ask you the same thing. For the audience, it's very easy to see you performing, right? But how do you prepare personally and emotionally? Do you have any type of ritual to play your role? Because, as you were saying, it's very intense. but how do you prepare yourself to go from one chapter to the other, from one episode to the other, how intense it is?
Yes.
I would like to know, I'm curious to know.
Yes, no, thank you for the question. It's very challenging. Because luckily the hard emotional scenes are spread out. The challenging aspect on the show is, so when you see an episode and you'll see us, there's every episode I'm gonna be in the conference room with the other fellows, and we're gonna be breaking down the medical cases. That's the most challenging on this show, because what happens is, I don't know how deep I can get into it. So when you do a television show, you do one episode, and while you're doing, say for instance, you're doing episode 1, they're doing prep on episode 2. So what happens is they haven't locked down the locations, and they're still looking for where we're going to shoot. So we mainly start in the conference room, and we'll mostly shoot all of the conference room scenes in one day. And that's where the dialogue is particularly heavy for me. And so the preparation for that, I keep drilling that and drilling that and drilling that. And when it comes to like deep emotional scenes, like there's some scenes in the season where I have to deal with some very very emotional things with my ex-wife. Those take a little bit more time, because you have to, as an actor, you kind of have to go places. You have to go back to places to bring you to that place emotionally, and that's very challenging. I don't really like to go there too much. I like to have a little bit more fun.
You come home crawling, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, given all of that, so when you have off time, which seems like not a lot at the moment, but when you do have off time, what do you do?
So for me, I like to go to the gym. I'm in the gym during my off time and watching sports. Those are my two main things. Other than that's it. Really, spending time with family.
Julie. And then here.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Julie from a French TV series. But I was wondering, do you think Watson is a good doctor, and why?
I do think Watson. I think Watson's a very good doctor. I think at the heart of it, he does care about his patients. I played a doctor on another show to where it was just about the bottom line. He only cared about making money for the hospital. Watson genuinely cares that his patients get healthy. There's an episode in the first season where he gets upset because there's a cure for sickle cell, but it's too expensive. So they're not telling anybody about it. And it's a very expensive cure. So he actually attempts to go outside of his responsibilities and jurisdiction to help cure this patient, because he's so frustrated with the system. So I think he's a good doctor because he's a good person and he cares about the patients.
Thank you. Yeah, the series does examine these ethical questions. I mean, this is more U.S.-centric, but about the healthcare system in the U.S., which has many problems.
Yes.
Is that important to you, speaking from the producer standpoint?
It is, because one of the things about our show, is some of these cases, just in general, people say, "Is that real? Is that real?" Everything is fully vetted by doctors on our show. That particular case with sickle cell, no one really is, because it's very recent that there's been a cure for sickle cell. And so I love that we're able to expose the audience to new medicine, new science, and to cures of ailments that have been plaguing people for years.
Here, and then over here, and then here.
Hi. Lily from Televisione in Belgium. If you weren't an actor, would you have been a doctor in another life?
I wish. I definitely didn't have the grades to be a doctor, but I think I probably, if I wasn't an actor, I've always been drawn to finance. I was a finance major in college. Didn't finish, but I was in college as a finance major. But so if I was an actor, and I used to work at the bank for many years, so I'd probably be doing something in finance.
Thank you. Just one. No, it's ici. And then.
Hi, Maurice.
How you doing?
When it comes to Sherlock Holmes,
Are you Team Benedict Cumberbatch or Team Robert Downey Jr.?
Ooh. I can say that both of them are brilliant, and I appreciate them both. I love.
Very diplomatic.
But it's I mean it's how do you it's hard to pick between the two because they're both extremely talented and engaging in both of their performances. When I'm looking at Robert, I can't take my eyes off the screen. When I'm looking at Benedict, I can't take my eyes off the screen. I mean, I love what they both did.
And what about Lucy Liu, who also played?
And Lucy, yes, Lucy is also engaging. I'm trying to track her down and get her to come on our show because that would be great if we can get her. But she was also incredible as well.
Yeah, hello again. In the Western team, there's obviously the Croft twin brothers.
Yes.
But they are played by one single actor.
That's correct.
Can you tell us about the process of working with him?
Oh my gosh. When we talk about, so that was very ambitious by the show because again, when you talk about a network television show, you don't have much time. You don't have much time to do each episode. Doing that with twins, first of all, Peter is incredible, but working with twins adds a tremendous amount of time to the day, and it's really one of the challenges for each director because we have a different director every single episode except for our main director who's directed 3 of them. But every time a director comes on, they'll be moving right along. But when it gets to those scenes, because of the challenge in doing it, it really slows everything down. It's very challenging.
Did you think at all about looking for twins to play those roles?
No, I think so. That was I'll give that to Craig. Craig really wanted to do something ambitious. You know, it's a television show. I mean, there's a lot of TV shows out there, so he wanted to have something else that was kind of different. Yeah. And so that was one of the things he wanted. It was a very ambitious, and we pulled it off, but it was very ambitious.
Hi again, Maurice. You mentioned Denzel coming out of St. Elsewhere.
Yes.
But I want to take you back to 1991. John Singleton.
Yes.
And The Boys in the Hood.
Yes.
And Ricky.
Yes.
I want to ask you what it meant for you as an actor, but also an African American, and how it changed your career in lots of ways.
Boys in the Hood really, I mean, first of all, that made my career because at that time I would say this. I would say it made my career and it changed my career. At the time that I did Boys in the Hood, no one knew me, and I was just looking for a job for someone to recognize me so I can get another job. But the film has resonated with the world for decades. I mean, you know, there's still, you know, young people running around with Boys in the Hood t-shirts on that weren't even born when the movie came out. And so I think it's introduced me to generations of audiences throughout the years. I also think that is one of the things, I mean, when you really look at that film, you've had actors that have very sustainable careers. You know, you have the Regina Kings, of course, you have the Angela Bassett's, you have the Fishburnes, the Cuba Gooding Juniors, the Ice Cubes. There's Nia Longs. There's so many people who've had decades-long careers, which is very challenging in our industry. I believe that film has been a huge part of that.
And can I just follow up about the industry itself?
Sure.
You've spoken about living and working in Hollywood and how tough it can be physically and emotionally.
Oh, gotcha.
And yet you're there and it's thrived and doing very well. What's the secret? How do you do that?
Ooh, you know, I think for me is I've always made. I'll say this. So a lot of people they'll come to Hollywood from all over the world, of course, and they immediately come into Hollywood and they make Hollywood their life, like their whole friends, their support group. I mean, it's everything to them. Their work, and they don't get out of it. To me, I've made Hollywood part of my life, but not my life. So when I'm done working, I go home. Like she was mentioning, I wake up and go to the gym. I have my own personal time. It's a very challenging industry because when you make it your life, it's your life. The industry itself it fluctuates. It's a very insecure industry. It's an industry to where everybody involved, from directors, writers, even corporate, you really don't know how long you're going to be at a job. You know, you can, some CEOs, if a CEO is there more than, you know, or the head of a studio is there more than, you know, 5 years, they've done a great job. You know, at some point, we all know we're going to be unemployed. You know, you think of us as actors. You know, we do a movie. If a movie's going to be 3 months, we already know, okay, in 3 months, I'm going to be looking for another job. A television show, I mean, you have what? You have very few television shows. You have a couple that have gone 20 years. You have like three shows out of the thousands of shows that have gone on, you know, that they've produced for decades. So you already know that once you get a job, pretty soon you're going to be unemployed soon. So it doesn't make for a stable stable mindset whatsoever, because you're always looking and fighting, because every job is a fight. Every job is a fight to a certain extent.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
We just have 2 minutes left. We can do one last quick question. Go ahead.
You mentioned Lucy Liu as
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
but we have also Jude Law and Martin Freeman.
Oh yeah.
So maybe you can choose a team, because the humor is very different. One is very dry.
Yes.
You know.
Amongst the Watsons.
Yeah, amongst the Watsons. So I mean, wow. Again,
As a viewer,
I mean, I think I can say, to the scale, if for the humor and the subtleties and the way, the combination of Cumberbatch and Freeman is an incredible combination. I mean, they really not. I mean, listen, Lucy nailed it with her guy, and Jude nailed it with Robert. But if I were to talk about the humor of it, all the performances are great. Yeah. If I were to talk about the humor of it and the wit of it, and I do like Martin, what he did with Benedict.
All right. I think we have 1 minute, very quickly.
Okay, you know, since we are in Europe,
Yes.
you know, the show is going to be dubbed in French, in Spanish. Have you seen how you sound in Spanish or French?
No, I haven't. I would love to see that. I would love to see that. I'd be jealous, because I actually would like to speak French. You know, I've taken Spanish in class, so I know, I know how to sound in Spanish, but I would actually like to speak French, so I would like to see it in French.
Okay, we'll try and line that up for you.
Please,
Ladies and
I appreciate
gentlemen,
it.
Morris Chestnut.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.